Welcome back, fellow armchair generals, to my continuing playing of Hearts of Iron 3 with Black Ice 8 and Third Reich events installed. Let's get to the war still going on here. You can see here we've taken good big chunks of Europe already. We just have these small skirmishes going on down here. Dietrich is attacking into there. And we are dealing with the partisans up here. Okay, just adjusting the sound a little bit. No, thank you. I have started the shift of basically the Panzer Army, plus a little bit more, the Yugoslav border, so it'll take a little while to get there. And then we're going to let it get there. We're going to let all of it get reorganized properly and supplies to catch up. And that's one thing that I learned, especially if you're SRing big stacks of troops like this on the Eastern Front. Figure they're going to get wherever it is and then just sit there and wait for the supplies to show up. And it may very much seem like way too late for the supplies to show up, because they travel one province per day, per time, getting out to here. That can be many days, and they start from Berlin or some other mysterious path, and I don't know, and they're finally getting out here, and by then it's, 2 or 3 months later or something, and things aren't, flowing what you need, so you have to sort of do that. We already have some units here. Let's look at the supply mode here. So they already know to start sending some supplies, but this will put a severe strain on the supply chain here. Okay, student's having a good little fight down here. I think he's going to win. Okay, artillery unit command and control has advanced. That's nice. Okay, most of these are 1840 dates, so shift it to that. Okay, we can produce more equipment. What just popped up? Okay, another fighter unit. I want to make sure I have enough units like these, basic units in the game. But I also want to make sure I have enough, if you will, specialty units. So we're going to be still needing to control France. And we're going to be controlling Yugoslavia coming up. So let's go a few more SD. Oh, clear all these out. Units. And just 2 SD brigades. That should get built fairly quickly. Okay, they'll be able to attack again in 22 hours. we are doing here is we're using that to using winter specialists for up north. Let's see, am I gonna do, I think I'm gonna leave Den Huber alone up in Kirkness, so I need Attila as well, so one more winter specialist if I have it up here. Guess not, so we're gonna keep rebasing our way up north, dropping off a few. Send him over here. This via strategic redeployment. Tried to attack again. Okay, and something more. Just a bunch more fighters. Good. We like the fighters. Do want a few more garrison divisions though. We'll make them garrison detachments. Put a second unit with them, primarily so I can have a leader there. But secondarily, something cheap like the rockets help. You know, the rockets won't have piercing, so if we get attacked by any sort of armor, they're not going to help us much, but they'll help something. Occupy, and they're cheap, as you can see. We can always build a few more anti-aircraft guns or anti-tank guns and send them out there if we get feeling like it, but don't know. Okay, we're going to be getting some French armor here in a while, and some other units to make. Now, okay, 5 ICs. Yeah, 6 ICs. So this would be, oh, that's the length of time here. 156 days, that always needs to be taken into account as well. Versus a motorized attachment here. 74 days. Okay, we like that better. Now, trying to remember what we're going to be getting. Let's go with a motorcycle attachment. A light vehicle. Headquarters. I think maybe 6 of these. Well, let's go for 4 for now. These, as they're calling them, Schützen battalions here, we'll put with some captured French armor to create some ersatz panzer divisions. We're still maxed out on supply, so I'm actually not going to be foolish, and like I said before, the time's really, you know, dumped super low, but if we're just a little bit in a deficit, it maximize, you know, I don't think we're going to have a problem because we're all at 9s for supply. But I really strongly suggest not doing a major deficit spending when it comes to supplies. Oh, okay, we can. Okay, just a second here. Let's see. We're gonna. Okay, another event. Okay. Monsoon full swing. Monsoon rains. Oh, okay. Explanation of weather signal flags. Oh, interesting. Excuse me. Across Southeast Asia and the Pacific. Extreme wet makes attacking any terrain very difficult. Most situations attacking will be futile in the floods. Okay, won't affect us now. Good to know. I'm glad they're letting us know about the monsoons down in here. Monsoons were a consistent, knowable thing, and in different regions, I believe, happening at different times. Meaning it, like maybe happening here, a different thing was happening here. It wasn't always everywhere, but they were very consistent. I don't think it's a secret. I have hopes this series of getting to India, so it may be affecting us at some point. But you know, I don't think the monsoons hit over here. So I don't know if we're getting effects. Don't know if we would see them if they're happening in some parts. But well, that's definitely something to consider as time goes on, as we gain territory in other regions. This winter coming up here, the 40-41 winter, won't be, I don't think, any real problem for us. Okay, excellent. We want to, we're taking that, obviously. No real choice here. Sort of have to watch that a little bit, that the Allies may decide to bomb it now. That's German territory. They haven't spotted us. They're all snoring in their bunks. Okay, the first happy time. Ah, yes. There's a phase of the Battle of Atlantic during which the German Navy U-boats employed significant success against the British Royal Navy and its allies. It started immediately after France was conquered by the Germans, bringing the U-boat fleet closer to the British shipping lanes in the Atlantic from July 1940 to the end of October. 282 Allied ships were sunk. Northwest approaches to Ireland, the loss of massive tons. Okay. Not quite sure whose event this is. The first happy time. And of course, as you're already seeing me doing, instead of sending out submarines around the north here, because this is actually rather somewhat impractical getting down, with both sides of the channel being controlled by the enemy. They built down in Lorient very large, very heavily concreted up production locations. I still think most of the components were built in Germany and brought in by train to be assembled, in here, but a major amount of the work was done and the boat was assembled and launched from here. But even if it was still built up here, as I know that there was at least still some production going on up here, moving it along the coast wouldn't have been that hard, as long as it's under German control. You can get it from, secure location to secure location, or even going around Britain and coming in here and getting resupplied. I guess the only small, I mean, I like the photo, but the only small problem I have with it is that it's taken from a modern movie. I hope they don't mind. I sort of watch that for my stuff. Use historical photos. Okay, small chance battle commander. Hope. Okay, field marshal ceremony. This is an event from Third Reich events that was originally suggested by George 1941. And I expanded upon it. After the fall of France, this is back in the Reich Chancellery. They got all these generals together and created, it was just a more or less somewhat private ceremony. It wasn't the big huge thing that Napoleon did for his martial batons, but this was the basic primary giving out of martial batons for first big group for World War II, and I think the biggest group in World War II. And I believe they're all listed here: von Klug, von Lieb, List, Milch, Reichenau, Ruhenstedt, Sparrow. Now I just showed the army ceremony grouping here with Goering. We'll get to more about him in a little bit, but there was also an Air Force ceremony. That's you look at it blown up. Those are really highly detailed flags. This is their command flag, hand stitched, with metal thread. It looks really, really good. They did really good craftsmanship on their work, and that's an original baton there. I mean, the quality isn't so great for the small event photos, but really good. And this will keep the generals happy, help our HQs a little bit, but mostly just going to cost us some money and supplies making all the new flags and batons and all those cool things. Now, Goering, like I said, Goering was there. Goering was a field marshal prior to this time, and commander of the Luftwaffe, but a field marshal. He was at this time made Reich Marshal. This is and I didn't realize this until only recently. This is a very, very significant thing. Remember, Vice Chancellor von Papen is no longer Vice Chancellor. He's been ambassador to Austria for leading up to the Anschluss, and then I don't know if we've had the event yet, but or not, I just don't remember. He gets sent off to being the ambassador to Turkey. So he's gone. So there's sort of a power vacuum outside of Hitler at the top of the government. Obviously, the deputy Führer of the party, not of the government, but of the party, is Hess. But Hess is really a non-entity. He makes speeches. People know who he is. He'd be recognized on the street. But I don't really think, in all my research and studies on the Third Reich, that anybody was looking at him for any sort of successor to Hitler if Hitler died. Now, you got to remember, and I haven't really gone into this, and I have some material, and I want to do it, and I just time, mostly. But also a little bit of thought, do we have chances for Hitler to be killed in assassination attempts? Because there were many assassination attempts on Hitler. They were routine almost. You have, I think it's Otto Strasser, one of the two Strasser brothers. I keep getting the two confused. Otto or Gregor Strasser, and where the Strasserism later comes from. He was I think it was Otto, was a Strasser who, before the Rome purge, he sort of got purged out and left. And while he was in exile in Czechoslovakia, he was trying to assassinate Hitler and got connected with the Jewish community. Was he really not anti-Semitic? I don't know. That's sort of the post-war viewpoint of Strasser and Strasserism. Sort of the good Nazis, good National Socialists. if you will, but I don't know whether that's just post-war reformatting the vision or whether that was true of the period or not. I don't know in detail. But he was definitely had at least one attempt that he sent a Jewish, worked with the Jewish community, sent a Jewish man to try to kill Hitler. And he was stopped on the train with a gun, and through investigations, he was tortured and then killed. So that there were, plenty of different assassination attempts. And obviously with the war going, if Hitler was killed, could be a plane accident, flying in fog. Allies, could bomb a city that he was in, or all kinds of things we could think of, as well as Allied attempts at assassination, as well as whatever. And they were real of it. Now, Hitler believed that he was a man of destiny and all of this stuff that no one would get to him. Obviously, no one did until he killed himself, but whether you want to put that up to destiny, good or bad, or just simply luck or good protection or bad luck for other people, I don't know. It's just a historical fact. But they were really, and he was willing to acknowledge the good possibility. And of course, there were a lot of other highly placed Nazis. One of them, of course, was Goering. And we talked earlier about long time ago about a possible army coup over the Czechoslovakia, and then would the Nazi Party, the SA and the SS, been able to resist, and if they weren't snapped up early in the coup, who would form the government? We've gone into a lot of that. What he wanted was a clear line of succession, including a military succession, not just a party succession, because Hitler didn't want to have him killed and then the army sort of take over the war. So, whoever is in charge of the party, and then whoever, whether it's the same person or a different person, is in charge of the, if you will, the civil government, but the army sort of declare its independence and fight the war. And this is just after the fall of France. We haven't even gotten into the quagmire of invading the Soviet Union or anything else, but they were still at war with Britain, and it wasn't necessarily over. And obviously Hitler had more plans. He didn't want necessarily that the army either make a separate peace or have fracture governmental control. So he created the Reichsmarschall position for Goering, and Reichsmarschall outranks the let me get a bunch of stuff happened here. All been sort of stored up, and as well as gotta move all these over. We'll get through a bunch of these here. Oberkommando des Heers, or as well as the Oberkommando des Wehrmacht. It was officially the Oberkommando des Wehrmacht. He outranked in this new title all other military positions except for Hitler as Führer of Germany. So he was officially the second in command of all military forces of everything. So this isn't, it is a Luftwaffe blue here, but if you notice, this isn't a Luftwaffe eagle, an eagle in flight. This is an eagle at rest on the wreath there. There's wings coming down, and that's all very important to this thing. So he was Reichsmarschall, not Commander-in-Chief of the Luftwaffe, or a Luftwaffe Field Marshal, if you will, or Air Marshal, to use more of the British term, an Air Marshal. He was a Reichsmarschall, a national or nation marshal. So he outranked them all. So he was the number 2, and this was very important. And as history showed, he did not command the entire German armed forces. He continued just to command basically the Luftwaffe. The army did not give up control of the army to him. The navy did not give up control of the navy to him. But it was mainly and almost exclusively done as a line of succession, and maybe also a little bit of telling other German generals and military figures, if you assassinate me, Hitler, the next guy in charge is Goering, and he's going to pursue the same policy, so don't bother assassinating me, I guess, unless you get all of us or something. So unless it's going to be a coup, you don't just decide to pull out your pistol one day if you're at some field event and Hitler shows up and decide to shoot Hitler, because you're just going to get Goering anyways, so it's not going to change things. We Nazis are still in charge. But this, the supplies and the money is just sort of partially, paying for Goering stuff here. But also I really look at it as, that's why it's like 40 money you lose, is Goering's extravagant lifestyle that he spends. He skims the money out of various things. He doesn't necessarily or primarily get it from, his salary or business investments. He's getting it from various skims, maybe a bit more from Reich, Hermann Goering than it is from the Luftwaffe budget, but that's what this represents. And now we get also here, he also gets the Grand Cross of the Iron Cross at this time. This is a photo of one of the versions that he had made, which you also see him wearing there. The swastikas there is just dark in this. Obviously he was presented with one, and then he had some copies made as well. And this was to be the Grand Cross of the Iron Cross. He was the only person awarded this. This outranked all the other Iron Cross awards for World War II. It was planned, I understand, that others would have gotten it like after the defeat of the Soviet Union or Germany's victory in World War II. This was obviously given out as the victory over France, which was a very big deal for the Germans. This was an incredibly big deal. They lost the First World War essentially to France, also obviously America and Britain as well too, and I believe France couldn't have done it alone, but the French, I think, put in the most manpower deaths, and not that they were the greatest offense or did the most defeating the Germans, but they were the ones that soaked up a lot of the casualties in the First World War, and was looked as, if you could defeat them, Britain and America you could negotiate with, because in the First World War technology they weren't going to be able to do D-Day landings or whatever. So this was a very big deal for the Germans in defeating France. So this war was over. There's war still going on, but this war that the British called the Battle of Britain, I'm not exactly sure if the Germans had a specific title for the war against France, and I'm not talking about Fall Gelb as the operations plans, but if they had a particular title for the overall battle. Now what's also sort of interesting about this, and this is a modern photo of one of his original wartime replicas, whether it's the one that he's wearing in this photo or not, but he's also wearing a replica in the photo, because he rarely wore the original, because what he had was, the original was this around the outside was in silver. Well, it wasn't flashy enough for Goering, and this tells you a bit about Goering. So all of his replica ones that he had made, the outside of the rest was platinum, so it was shinier than the silver. So he had them redone and plated in platinum instead of silver, which is interesting. And another interesting note was, often when the Luftwaffe was doing bad, like if there was a series of bad bombings over Germany, or I think the failure to airlift supplies well enough into Stalingrad, he'd stop wearing this. He'd continue wearing his World War I, Pour le Mérite, the Blue Max, and some of the other medals, but he would at least temporarily stop wearing this. the Grand Cross, which was sort of interesting. And then, you know, a month or two later, he'd start wearing it again. But so periodically he would not wear that. So rather sort of interesting little things. Tells you a lot about who Goering was. That he really wanted all this stuff flashy. And you can get somebody completely opposite, very aesthetic type personality of Hitler. And that's sort of the, you know, the polar opposite. But then most people fall somewhere in between, that if you are somebody in Goering's place, you don't need minor little things like this to remind yourself or to remind everybody who you are and how important you are. So he just liked all this stuff. Okay. Let me see if I can pronounce this halfway right. Rutilaport? This was somewhat of the founding myths for Switzerland here. I don't know. Obviously, it's by this lake, under this mountain, somewhere in Switzerland here. I'm not sure exactly where. Switzerland at this time was somewhat of a fractured country, like it is today, in that there's a French-speaking part, an Italian-speaking part, a German-speaking part, and a little bit of the Romansh, I think is the way you pronounce it, sort of an indigenous Swiss language. And as you can see from the event behind here, and what you don't see, there is also a bunch of Italian fascist events that have been going on, that if, depending on the AI, which one they picked, the Italians may be putting money into the fascist party in there. It was somewhat of a fractured country. And they were worried in July 1940. They were worried about the very real possibility of being invaded. Now, General Guisan, I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that right. Switzerland did not have generals. They had colonels, basically. And it was a very diffused military hierarchy, if you will. But they would periodically, at times of emergency, appoint a general to oversee all of the Swiss army, and that this is him. And he was appointed. So it was sort of maybe like what you would think of as a marshal in another country. I'm not equating to the Reich Marshal so much as just a marshal to oversee everything, to be the one guy on the top. And he was picked to do this stuff. And so what he did was, realizing that there were officers in there, and this is a picture of the real event in 1940. You see them all there. There were officers that had very strong, from the German-speaking regions, that had very strong Nazi sympathy. Some may have just been anti-communist, others were Nazis. A few in that crowd were probably Italian and fascist. Many others French-speaking and looking towards France and seeing France just defeated, whatever their personal political views were. So he got together, basically, and I don't know if I say this, all the officer corps in France, and what rank and above. It was literally like all of the colonels and majors or something like that. Maybe, I'm not saying there wasn't one or two people that didn't show up, but really it was almost every single one of them is here in this photograph. There's like 100 plus people fairly densely packed into there below the flag. And tried to build the spirit of national unity. Here's the 19th century of this somewhat mythical founding of Switzerland. If you're Swiss, I presume you understand. This event was brought to me by one of the Swiss players. And, shown to me that this is how they were trying to build this national unity in the face of world chaos, if you will. But also they're also bringing all the whole command staff out here in this field all in one spot, and basically I really do believe it was all of them. They didn't have a backup team somewhere else, and that this would allow, and there were a few days notice that this was all going to happen, because this wasn't some super secret saying that if someone fast on their feet could have assassinated all of these guys, creating chaos in Switzerland, and give it a chance to invade, or just chaos. So we have three choices here. We can let them be. We can do an airstrike against them because they're all out in the field, and you could imagine what 30 or 40 airplanes coming over with a few observers parachuted in a day or two before and radioed, yeah, here they're all out here flying now, kind of thing. And they've done an airstrike to that, or we can send in a saboteur to put because they had to get there via train because it's a somewhat remote location. Try to do some sort of saboteur, which would, neither one would fully kill everybody, but kill a lot of them and cause a lot of chaos. If you pick the saboteur, you just have the chance of two different outcomes. That one, and I forget which one's which. One will make Switzerland stronger because the saboteur will have killed a few of them, but most will be saved and they're pissed off. And so the stronger national unity. The other one is that you get enough of them that it's chaotic. The airstrike, similar sort of results, but will also be a declaration of war in there if you declare war on Switzerland. Because even if you painted over the markings on the airplanes, and you may have just done that just so you could get into Switzerland without everybody reporting German airplanes coming in, and maybe like we've before seen, we've been selling 109s to Switzerland, paint them up in Swiss colors. Very quickly they would have figured out that from enough reports that they came from Germany and not Italy, and obviously they wouldn't have come from France. So they're not coming from Soviet Union flying all the way. They'll know who did that, and there'll be proof. Because I know, Herman, you want me to attack. I know, and I would consider doing a special episode, but my current plan is not to kick over the hornet's nest and have these people revolting all the time. So we're going to let them be, and it's also because I'm going for the historical approach. So we're going to let them be. But that is your second chance. The first chance I would not take to declare war via event, which is over the Gustloff killing. It's just too early. I've triggered a bunch of dissent and a bunch of other problems in Germany because Germany wasn't ready, but you could take that chance. This one doesn't have a lot of those problems because you're already at war, just one more country. But if you want to go in, that's sort of the time, unless you were trying to go in before and try to invade through Switzerland, which is another option. Davos. That's a sign from Davos at the period with the NSDAP, and notice it's NSDAP. This is the German National Socialism in Switzerland, as opposed to the Swiss National Socialism. There were chapters, a bunch of them, a lot of them focused in Davos. There were a lot of Germans living in Switzerland during this time. A lot of them were anti-Nazis because they had fled from the Nazis. But also a lot of them were Nazis, and they continued to flow in during the war. A lot of Nazis. I think a lot of, after the war started, they didn't want to be in cities that were being bombed and other things like this. So people evacuated, often families of, potentially, whether they're soldiers or whoever, got the families out to Switzerland. But there were also a lot of Germans living in Switzerland pre the war. A lot of them stayed living there. A lot of them came, war age males came back to it. But there was set up an infrastructure of Nazis, with German Nazis within Switzerland. And if you notice here, this is another photo taken in Switzerland, and they're using the swastika. The swastika was banned in Switzerland for Swiss political parties. This is not a Swiss political party. This is a German political party operating in Switzerland, meaning these people didn't vote, at least as a function of this. I don't know whether they had dual citizenship or not, but least as a function of this, they were not voting for trying to voting for these peoples of this party to hold seats in Switzerland's parliament. But this was basically to some degree a foreign chapter in Germany. But they did have a lot of influence with German-speaking Swiss. So they could openly be Nazis, openly have their swastikas because they were referring to the German party. And obviously the flag is the flag of Germany as well, not just a party flag, it's also the national flag. So we can support our German party operating, our German Nazi party in Switzerland, primarily Davos, or not. It triggers an event which gives more popular support for the Nazis and makes Germany a little more friendly for the Swiss, so we'll do that. Okay, this is another, you can see the full-size thing there. And this house is badly darkened, or so that's what Google Translate this as such. And again, basic quick translation of it here. This would be a sign that would be stuck to your door or something if they go by and see that it was badly darkened. I presume if it were windows wide open with light pouring out, they'd be knocking on the door, open up. But if little light leaked here, little light leaked there, I think they would just simply, because people would be asleep or something, they would be putting these up on notices up. So you got to do a better job. Not that you're, like I say, huge amounts of light streaming out, but just sort of to show you at this time, because of the bombings, and we've seen them here in the game, doing various strategic bombings, they were doing this stuff in Germany, presumably mostly in Western Germany. Create the historic Panzer HQs, yes. We'll take that. Okay, the Comet, yes, another one of the Commerce Raiders. Adler Host, okay. This is another one of the Fuhrer bunkers. Okay. In the west, I believe Welzer is over here somewhere, I think. 1 manpower, 5% of ICs until when? October 40. 5%. Is 5% worth the airbase? 10 anti-aircraft gun, that makes it almost impregnable from before. Radar. Or lowered organization if we don't do it. I'm not so much worried about the lower organization since we're only going into Yugoslavia until that time. I don't want to commit 5%. If it was just the supplies seem reasonable. The manpower, because you also get an HQ out of, or you get a headquarters guard out of it. I would say it's reasonable, and I could even double the supplies, or triple even. But that 5% is too much. I think it's just a little too much. So, but we'll take the hit there. Okay, send the Ordnungspolizei into Norway. Yes, we want to do that. Send the Ordnungspolizei into Denmark. We don't need to so much because it's been annexed, but we'll take that because we can use them there or somewhere else. Okay, this is the military occupation of the Netherlands, Nederland. Yes, we want to do that. Get us these. Okay, let's see. Any and all German military intel. Local revolt risk will increase. The Netherlands. Okay, but we'll have the troops there. I guess it's basically simulating that the military occupation will piss off the locals, and that seems reasonable. Build air bases in Poland 3. Yes, we'll do that. Okay. So let's see. I think yes. We'll send in the local SS there. Let's see, do we have any? He looks like he'll do the job. And since it's more of an occupation force, the ersatz here, so we'll put it under. Let's find him. Not so good. SS leader to handle that. And also a not so good German officer to handle the local Landschutz regiment there. So we're continuing that there. Now we've also got this here. No. And he's done a much better job than the last version of this. Revolver held has much better. Thought I had an Ordnungspolizei guy who was a winter specialist for this. Made up already. Yeah. I think having him there reduces winter attrition. I may be wrong about that, but that's what I think. Ah, here we are. Let's give him a promotion. See, he may even be the one for Norway. You know, I don't just simply decide to give a general a winter specialist. He's got to have been assigned to Norway or someplace like that for me to decide to give him the specialty. It's not something I just frivolously do. No, I'm not gonna. Denmark isn't Norway for cold, at least not to my understanding. Not that it's warm, sunny Southern California, but so police are growing in. Okay, and these guys have made it here. And their specialists get on board. And their specialist. Next up. No, let's go all the way up to here, and then we'll pick some of those guys and bring them back south. Temporarily rebase them up to there. Okay, minor negatives. Okay, they're no longer attempting to align with us. That means they've gotten as close as they want to get to us. Diplomacy. Iraq. So what we're going to do is we're going to... We have a fair amount, and we're positive. Okay, so we're going to influence the nation, because I want Iraq to really like us. Let's upgrade the 6th Panzer Division. Yes, again, my pet peeve, wrong period of photo. That's mid to late war. And we'll put it in the production queue. Oh, shoot. Almost forgot all these. Throw them up top. Put that up as well. Good. Ah yes, one of the Becker events. Yes, this will improve the 227th Division. Good. SS Mountain Troops, yes, we want to activate them. SS Cavalry. This is because we recently had that SSHQ. Reward our heroes. Again, nice sort of photo. Another photo with medals laid on the table. This is a standard black ice event, but I just Germanified it by overwriting the photo with a German, your standard one with a German one. Presumably you're mostly playing Germany if you're playing with TRE. Okay, the Kraftwagen Transport Regiment Speer der Luftwaffe. Okay, this is continuing with the NSKK events. This was sort of a mixed responsibility type unit here. I think this now here I did it. This is a winter photo. I'm guessing maybe East Front, though I used it here because I had an extremely hard, difficult time trying to find NSKK units that were organization tote type units for this, and the Speer unit is, and here's the passbook for it, is part of tote, is part of the NSKK, but Speer is yet in charge of it. So I'm talking literally like 4 or 5 photos total I found of this. If any of you find any more photos, please send me links to them or scan them in the computer and send me a copy. Where tank photos, I can find thousands, literally. These stuff, I've had a really hard time trying to find them there. And mainly, at this time, these NSKK units that were coming out of operating for some for Speer, some for the organization Todt, were assigned to the Luftwaffe for motor transport duties to, a lot of times for supplying a lot more events. Headquarters like Flieger Quartier as things were moving east, but also here like these, the Luftwaffe flak brigades, supplying them mostly as opposed to directly motorizing a unit, but they were at their disposal to do whatever motorization. So you can decide no need if you want. That's what the AI does, because I don't think the AI will ever use them. Well, we'll use them. They give us a probably in Berlin or something. I don't. Is that the new one? No, that's the older one. I don't know where the new one is. Maybe it is in Berlin and not nearby. Here. Okay, no, this is, yeah, the new one. You get 3 of them here, truck units that you can use to motorize whatever you want. But it was much larger than this size of units here, and that represents. So it's sort of a compromise between, because some of the people thought, well, just put an effect that adds more supply throughput, and that's an idea, but I wish I could just do it in certain regions that either you can move around or whatever. So it's mostly you get these to use what you want, but there were a lot more trucks used. Okay, so you get, like I say, put into whatever units, wherever you want to do it, whatever you want to motorize. Reich Kommissar Norwegian, Terboven. That's this gentleman here. He was obviously a Nazi. He was, I think, Gauleiter of Essen. Very fervent Nazi. He was, I'm not giving you a choice here. I don't know that it really matters, but you're not getting a choice. He was sent to govern. That's, I think, the Crown Prince's house is where he was lived and had his headquarters during his stay. He was basically, was the Reich Kommissar for Norway, Germany's at least political lead in Norway at the time for the war. And he caused a lot of conflict. He definitely supported the German viewpoint and Hitler's viewpoint. There's no real dispute about that. And he was very much for integrating Norway into the German Reich over time, not maybe now during the war in the next 5 or 10 years even, or whatever, it was eventually Norway was going to be part of the Greater German Reich. Now, Germany's biggest ally was Quisling in Norway, and he was a National Socialist, most assuredly and firmly a National Socialist, but a Norwegian National Socialist, meaning he wanted, he was very super strongly Norwegian nationalist. He did not want Norway to become part of the German Reich. He didn't mind it being allied to Nazi Germany, and once the world presumably was at some sort of peace, wanted to be independent, part of the National Socialist world order or whatever, but governing itself, ruling itself, being a powerful Norway for Norwegians under his Nazi type viewpoint, most assuredly. I'm not trying to make him out to be a good guy or someone that Norwegians should be proud of, but he was a he wasn't, I mean, obviously the term Quisling comes from him and his actions of betraying Norway, and he definitely betrayed the Norwegian government in many aspects, even before the he wasn't just a post-conquest appeaser, trying to get along to do the best you can, that we can say legitimately with some of these other people, whether you agreed with their decisions in places like Norway, Denmark, France, Pétain, however you want to view him. If you're French, fine, but Pétain was at least trying to go along to get the best deal that France could get out of it. You could look at least one of the events that shows up before the war starts, that Pétain is warning Frenchmen and the French government, when people weren't listening to him, of the threat of the Germans, and that you need to prepare for war to defend France from Germany. He was not a yay for the Germans, we're going to collaborate with them. It was, oh damn, the Germans won, what can we, how best can we handle this? Not saying he made the best choices. I watched some documentaries on it that criticize him. I think they're valid, but at least he was trying to help his country and only cooperating with the Germans because he had to. Quisling, prior to the invasion, and as the invasion was going on, was helping to undermine Norway so that Quisling could become in charge of Norway to then have his version of Norway. So he betrayed Norway while Norway was still fighting. At least that's my understanding of Quisling in the situation. Maybe there's some Norwegians that have better understanding, but that's my understanding of Quisling. So he did betray his country, but he was, as he saw it, still an ultra-nationalist. So that through this, until the end of the Second World War and the Allies gaining control of Norway, there was this conflict between Terboven and Quisling, and we'll see some more effects of it later on, as to whether Norway was going to be part of the Reich, or was Norway going to be a National Socialist ally of the Reich. And Terboven was probably not the best person to, and I have not done, and I may do some, like on Denmark. Denmark was definitely a plan to organize it into the Reich, but very gently and over many years, and at least initially the Germans sent there were good diplomats for that, and very smooth and not trying to ruffle feathers. Terboven was the opposite, shall we say. He didn't mind if he did, and I think a lot of it comes because he was a Gauleiter from the National Socialist Party. Arnold Becker, sculptor. Here he is sculpting Speer. There is the work as it was finished. There's obviously Speer. Rather famous sculptor. We've seen him before winning the silver medal for sculpting in the Olympics in 1936. Excuse me. And he was a bit of a favorite of Hitler, as well as Speer. And he had lots of commissions. He continued to be a sculptor post the war. I don't know how much of a Nazi he was. Obviously, he bought into the overall thing to some degree. And he, like I say, he was a friend, if you will, to Speer and to Hitler on a personal sense. But basically all he ever did was sculpt things. Maybe not exactly my style, but I don't think it's bad. I think it's good. That's what I see. Isn't bad style, but nothing more controversial than sculpting things. But we'll, just one of the cultural things, and we'll be seeing him a little bit later, I think. Okay, not my event. Deutsches Red Cross, Roses Crucis, or whatever. It is in German. I often, when I show, and unfortunately it won't be in this version, the red cross symbol with a big German eagle sitting on top of it, dominating, is sort of a symbolic as how the Germans often did this. Let's see, we can do this or not. I don't see a downside. So we'll do this. Gain some first aid and combat medicine. And yes. Okay. Use French tank factories. As just posted, I know this will be out a week or more later, about events for revitalizing some factories after conquest. So we will lose Okay. We have tank factories level 4, but 2 of them have survived. So we actually are benefiting, well, the 0.9 is non-functional. Has to be 100% functional to function. The armaments factory is totally destroyed. And the aircraft factory. So here we will lose all of the tank factories. We will lose the 2 aircraft factories. And we'll gain 2 armaments factories. So I guess that just sort of means general armaments factories. If this is World War II, they're just simply reconditioning, or this is maybe post. Maybe a very interesting photo here. I've not seen this photo before. These are Renault FT-17, some of them without the turret. It could just be for maintenance purposes. All in a big warehouse. Could be the Germans during this time revitalizing. So they went through and they scooped up, got all the ones from the battlefield, the damaged ones, the functioning ones, and got a lot of them reworked and running again if they needed to be done. And so this way, such as Renault's. Well, I'm going to go no need because I got 2 tank factories here. If these were all damaged, all 4 of them, this was, and you saw the long battle in Germany. So our manufacturing plants are destroyed. Our urban expansion, that doesn't matter. The research centers are destroyed, and the base hospital is destroyed. This police center is rebuildable, so that got rebuilt after being destroyed, and we rebuilt all the factories. These are not rebuildable, so the 0.9 doesn't help us out. It has to be 100% or it doesn't help out. These obviously have been rebuilt, and we don't care about that. So the railway terminus is non-functional. So we're going to go no need. I know most of you, take a look at this. So this is all in Paris. Normally when I see lose, I presume it means gain, because it's, even when I know it gains and I watch it gain, I'll sometimes say lose. But with the -4, -2. So it would be a complete wash, and we move it from tanks to armament. I'm going to keep it tanks. So before you get this event, whether in whatever version, this version or the newer, check your current stats, because I had previously checked my stats in Paris and noticed that even after that long battle, there were 2 functional tank factories there, so no need. Manpower returned to the pool from, I think, the version. Okay, from airports. Good. Okay, how are we doing down here? Okay, we've won down here, so now... Excellent, do that. I'm not going to leave them down there, I'm going to send them over here. Probably should be a little better skilled after that long march and attack that they had. Then I wanted the experience to flow up, so I made sure they didn't, a couple of HQs of these units down here didn't go too far away, but I want them to head over here too. Okay, I'm gonna take this decision now here. Convert passenger liners. I don't think I want to do this, because I've got enough, I think. Troop ships. Various types. And let's... add these to their group. And we can... put them down here in preparation for operations in the south. The British will come over and try to bomb us a little bit here. So we do want some fighters. Doesn't normally have to be much, but some in the theater. Okay. Now, Belgian, and North Reich, so northern France. German military occupation. We'll gain a 2% revolt risk, but we'll get troops out of that. Okay. We have now very high popularity. We should be getting that. Germany, and this very much may be based heavily on just a little bit negative, and that's fine. On winning France, that is a massive, and I think some of that could be from the Field Marshal event, but there's also some other stuff that should be coming soon. That this was, like I was saying earlier, this was a big deal that that Germany defeated France so completely, quickly, rapidly, with compared to World War I and the casualty losses, with hardly any loss for the size of the army, size of the attack for Germany, compared to if you look at casualty totals for the amounts of battles and whatever. It was just done from the German armies, from the German population standpoint, you know, with incredibly low levels of losses. Okay. We have a choice here. The Kraft Deutsch Freud magazine, the KDF Arbitrarium, the name of the magazine, announced that production of the Volkswagen will continue during the war. That's what they announced. Should we continue producing to keep the people happy during wartime? The Volkswagen here, as you're seeing, is also frame-wise the basis for the Kugelwagen, the Jeeps, which are being built now, Brunswick. There, we can do that and lose 5 in dissent, and gain a minuscule amount of unity, I think, and gain some popularity, which would be nice. Or we can lose 0.5% and lose a little popularity, but not cost us 5,000 supplies, 10,000 energy, and 10,000 metal. Basically, I wanted this to make a real decision, potentially painful, and not just on the cars. As I'm looking at this, this is representative for me, and this event was added by George 1941, and I think I tweaked it just a little bit. This is his image that he made. Is to represent, do we continue doing a lot of civilian production at this time, or do we convert things over to more military production without, you know, an IC loss, but massive supplies? We're going to take the hit. We're going to take the hit. Get a little, you know, 0.5 point there. Lose a little. I don't know if it's so much that we're going to no longer be very high popularity, but I'm going to take that hit because I don't need to do the supply. Also, if on the new version you find this happening, I would love to have you report it. If you ever find an event without an image, this is not one of mine. I always make event images, though I might reuse them. Unless you see an event that has image that has like almost apparently nothing to do with what we're talking about. But I'd like reported just in case it happens to be one of mine that I didn't get the event image in the right folder at the right place when packaging up. Damage forts from the Maginot Line. We'll lose a bunch of the pillboxes, but I think either immediately or eventually we will gain some surplus equipment from that. And Norway. The Norwegian army controls. Yes, we want to do this. We'll gain revolt risk there. British air attack on Berlin. Okay. Before 1941, Berlin at 950 kilometers. Oh, 530 miles. Good to know. I'm an American. I know miles. From London was at extreme range, attainable by the British bombers, then available, which often at this time were twin-engine bombers. When unavailable, it could be bombed only at night in summer when the skies were longer, or when the days were longer and the skies clear, which increased the risk to Allied bombers. The first RAF raids took place on the night of August 25th, 1940. And that's partly because of, I think France was, if you look at some of the movies, I don't know if any of you watch old movies, but some of the movies, and some were from H.G. Wells, who was a complete nut job. You may like his time machine books and some of the other stuff, but he was a complete nut job. We could go into more of that later. But a lot of them, they thought that war was going to be fought from the skies, that they were going to come over and obliviate cities, and that like everybody was going to die. Now obviously we sort of kind of saw that, particularly with very efficient American and British bombing of cities, including Berlin. We can go over and look at it and see that. But that was a big, massive thing. But they thought it was, I think, going to be a lot worse than it was. And more like 80-90% casualties, where I don't think it was quite that high because they had built bomb shelters. More and more. I'm not trying to diminish what really happened, but if you look at it, it was also that last the fort thing, we got all this territory is now German, and as you can see, we have cores on it because it's not wanting to revolt. Well, we also have a lot of troops there too. So all these factories are now, industries here are now in German and under German. Not occupation duty, but under direct control, including like here. So, which is good. It's sort of as if it was a nuclear bomb kind of thing going off, the way it was portrayed. And there was a lot of fear of that. And I think that was going on in France. So my understanding is France did not want to do large-scale bombing in Germany for fear of retaliations against its cities. And I think partly because it was Neville Chamberlain. I think partly because France was going to very seriously object to using French air bases to do so, and you couldn't fly over, at least not in a real sense, neutral countries here, and so flying over France or over here was going to increase raids to get all the way to Berlin. They couldn't really do it, so it did only start happening after the fall of France to be able to get to Berlin and do what was direct city raids. Prior to the time they had done raids, some of the raids were like into German forests to catch the forest on fire, to burn down the trees so that they couldn't use them, for lumber. I mean, they were, because you're just going to kill a forest, there's going to be no one. They didn't have green movements back then like we do now. Of course, we would rather kill all the people in the city than hurt a tree, but that's modern day philosophy. Back then it was like, hey, there's hardly anybody living in the forest. We can destroy the forest and they won't be able to lumber for rifle stocks or 1,000 other things. It was to destroy their industry, but trying to do it in a low civilian impact way. Now, of course, today the trees are much more valuable than the people, so kill as many people as you like. Don't ever kill a tree. So even in wartime. So we're getting, okay, so we're getting some dissent. Gain 2 and dissent. Because they're now bombing us. Okay, we want the veteran HQs in, for the army. Okay, I think we're going to end the episode here. I want to thank you for viewing. Really do appreciate all the comments and any of you who want to like these videos. Thanks so much. See you next time.